Hello, I'm Billy Stewart, Assistant Pastor here at Solid Rock Tabernacle, 1325 Rudy Road in Alma, Arkansas. I want to welcome you to the broadcast and extend this personal invitation to you to come and join us in one of our exciting spirit-filled services. Our Sunday school begins at 9 a.m. Our Sunday morning worship begins at 10 a.m. Our Sunday evening worship begins at 6 p.m. And we have an exciting Wednesday evening Bible study that begins at 7 p.m. We are taking a journey through the Bible, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse. Join us, won't you? Solid Rock Tabernacle, 1325 Rudy Road in Alma, Arkansas. It's church the way that it should be. Hey, I'll save a seat just for you. And now, let's join our service already in progress.
There we go. That got it. Otherwise, we'll be getting people calling and saying, I can't hear it. So I'm sorry if you couldn't hear it before, but now you can hear it. All right, here we go. So they had when they left Egypt, they left as a mob. That's all they were doing. They were just a group of people. They were left. They left, leaving, trying to get out of Egypt. Now they're fully prepared to walk as a people that are suited to God's promised land. They're now promised land people. Right? They had to prepare themselves to be promised land people. And the preparation work was focused on this exact point, bringing them to Canaan. Okay? They had become ordered and organized now. They had become cleansed and purified. They'd become set apart and blessed. They had learned to give and how to function as priests. They were made to remember judgments brought. They had God's presence as a guide and the tools needed to lead the people. Okay? And you would think that after such extensive preparation, a virtual transformation from slave people to promised land people, that the actual entrance into Canaan would be kind of easy because they've been molded, they've been made this. That's why they spent that year at the base of Mount Sinai, was to be prepared to be a promised land people, the people to go into Canaan so they could enter into the promised land God would have them enter into. And you would think that with all of this preparation that they had, that it would be easy for them to do, but that wasn't the case. Okay? The preparation was exactly that. It was preparation. Right? Ahead of them, they had their greatest challenges. And these challenges that they had to face coming up could only be met by faith. To use an example on that, okay? A soldier might think that basic training finishes something, right? For anybody who's been in the military, basic training doesn't finish anything, okay? It's not, it prepares you for greater challenges that are to come, but basic training is not something that once you get done with it, you think, okay, that's it, that's all I need. No. Yeah, it's just the beginning of it. But it prepares you for those things that are to come. And those things that are to come are the actual battles themselves. Right? Let's look at verses 14 to 28. In the first place went the standard of the camp of the children of Judah according to their armies, and over his host was Nahshon, the son of Amminadab, and over the host of the tribe of the children of Issachar was Nethaneel, the son of Zuar, and over the host of the tribe of the children of Zebulun was Eliab, the son of Helon. And the tabernacle was taken down, and the sons of Gershon and the sons of Merari set forward, bearing the tabernacle. And the standard of the camp of Reuben set forth according to their armies, and over his host was Eliezer, the son of Shedeur. And over the host of the tribe of the children of Simeon was Shelumiel, the son of Zurishaddai. And over the host of the tribe of Gad was Eliasaph, the son of Duel. And the Kohathites set forward, bearing the sanctuary, and the others did set up the tabernacles against they came. And the standard of the camp of the children of Ephraim set forward according to their armies, and over the host was Elishama, the son of Ammihud. And over the host of the tribe of the children of Manasseh was Gamaliel, the son of Pedazur. And over the host of the tribe of Benjamin was Abidan, the son of Gideoni, and the standard of the camp of the children of Dan set forth, which was rearward of all the camps throughout the host. And over the host was Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai, and over the host of the tribe of the children of Asher were Pagiel, the son of Ochran, and over the host of the tribe of the children of Naphtali were Ahira and the son of Enan. Thus were the journeyings of the children of Israel according to their armies they set forward. Okay? Now, I said all that to say this. They marched in order. They had a specific way that they were supposed to march. God set this forward in the earlier books. Actually, in number 7, I know we didn't go over number 7, but that's where God established how each one was supposed to go. Yes. In order of the tribes, yes. Who was in front? The Levites. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, only certain groups carry the tabernacle. Yep. So what they did, they're all going according to the way they were supposed to go. And what this means is that they took God's word seriously and they followed it exactly, just as those who will receive God's promises should. We should follow God's direction exactly. Whatever he says to do, that's what we need to do, okay? So after it was first built at the foot of Mount Sinai, this was the first time the tabernacle was taken apart and transported. Okay? So the tabernacle's been there now, but remember, it was made to tear down so they could carry it with them. This was the first time that it was actually taken apart so they could carry it with them. And everything was done as God commanded, with each family of the Levites taking their appointed role. That was only the beginning of the journey, though. There were many more challenges of faith that were ahead for Israel. Up to this point, the beginning of the journey, the record in Numbers shows consistent obedience. As we go through all of Numbers, we see that they were very obedient to everything that God did and everything that God said. Right? Up to this point. We are unprepared for the later disobedience and the rebellion of Israel because it looked like they were a really obedient people. So when you see that and you later see, oh, wow, why were they so rebellious? Why were they so disobedient? Okay? And we can look at the Bible and we can say, even today, how can people be so disobedient to God? Or how could they have been disobedient to God when they're doing it today? People are doing it today. Christians are doing it today. And for us to look in the Bible and say, I don't see how they could do it, all we have to do is look around us and see how that can happen. Okay? So we are unprepared for this later disobedience and rebellion of Israel, and for the bitter truth that all those stately men that were mentioned in these verses would die in the wilderness among a generation of unbelief. All of those great leaders that we just talked about, that we just went over in those verses, every one of them would die in the wilderness. The whole generation would die, okay? Because they were unwilling to trust God's promise to enter Canaan. And we'll see how that all comes about as we go along. All right, let's look at verses 29 to 32. And Moses said unto Hobab, keep wanting to say Hodab, but it's Hobab, the son of Raguel, the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, we are journeying unto the place of which the Lord said, I will give it you come thou with us, and we will do thee good, for the Lord hath spoken good concerning Israel. And he said unto him, I will not go, but I will depart to mine own land and to my kindred. And he said, Leave us not, I pray thee, for as much as thou knowest how we are to encamp in the wilderness, and thou mayest be to us instead of eyes. And it shall be, if thou go with us, yea, it shall be that the Lord shall do unto us, the same we will do unto thee. So Moses was a wise enough leader. That's a good leader. A good leader knows that I can't do everything. They have to know their limitations. They have to say, I can't do this by myself. I need help. I need somebody to come with me. All right? And Moses knew his limitations, and he knew that he needed help. So Moses also knew that God's help often comes through men or through mankind, okay? Like his brother-in-law, Hobab. Right? Though Israel was guided by God, they still needed help from man. All right? Men like Hobab. God plans it this way, church. Often arranging his help to come, at least in part, through people he has ordained to help us. Yes. Hmm. No. Mankind. Man. Humans. Anybody. Anybody. Mankind. Anybody. In the world, man, not just men. It can be men, women, whoever, okay? Mankind, human beings. Sometimes God helps us through other people. And he arranges it that way. He fixes it that way to where it requires other people to help us. But it is people that he has ordained and set apart to help us, okay? They didn't need Hobab to tell them where to go. They didn't need that. The pillar of the cloud and the pillar of fire, that told them where to go. Right? They already had the map. They didn't need him to help them with that. All right? But his knowledge and experience were helpful. His knowledge and experience in finding water. He'd been living in the desert. He knew how to find water. Okay? With a golf club. That's how everybody finds water, right? Somebody asked me one time if I was in a desert, what would I take? I said, a golf club. Why? Because I can always find water with the golf club. No matter what I do, I'm going to find water. If there's water, my ball's going in it, all right? But it was helpful. He was helpful in being able to find water. He was helpful to finding potential food, maybe fuel for their fires, and other things in the places where the Lord directed them to march and then directed them to camp. Okay? Since Moses knew that God could use Hobab in a significant way, he was willing to appeal to him. Appeal is just kind of a nice way of saying he was willing to beg. Okay? Sometimes we have to beg. Okay? He was not going to take that initial no as an answer. And Moses said, Hobab, come with us. No, I don't think. I'm going to go back to my people. I'm going to hang out with them. And Moses said, no, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to take no for an answer. Okay? So what he first did was he appealed to Hobab's selfishness. Okay? He said, we're going to treat you good. Man, we're going to treat you real good. We'll treat you real what no matter what, we're going to treat you good. Okay? When that didn't work, his second appeal, which was the successful appeal to him, was to his charity and his helpfulness. Moses said, "You be our. You can be the one that sees the things that we can't see because we're not experienced in this." Okay? You got to be careful on stuff of that like that. Number one, I loaned a blind of mine some money. He says, "I'll give it back to you when I see you again." And that didn't dawn on me. And I said, "Oh, wait a minute. He got me." Okay? All right. Verses 33 to 36. And they departed from the mount of the Lord 3 days' journey, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord went before them in 3 days' journey to search out a resting place for them. And the cloud of the Lord was upon them by day when they went out of the camp. And it came to pass when the ark set forward that Moses said, "Rise up, Lord, and let thine enemies be scattered, and let them that hate thee flee before thee." And when it rested, he said, "Return, O Lord, unto the many thousands of Israel." Okay? So, as they began their journey to the promised land, they were guided by God's presence, not by their own sense of direction. Was the cloud and the fire. Okay? They followed the cloud, no matter where the cloud went, no matter where God went. They followed it. Okay? If they were to camp in a rough place, they did it. If they were to depart from a comfortable place, they did it. Okay? They allowed themselves to be guided by God, not by their own wisdom or their own desire for comfort and ease. I want to go something I forgot to mention on Hobab. Hobab knew how to hunt. See, and the Israelites had not been told that. They've got all these animals, so now they're going to get. Hobab was able to help them with that as well, and we're going to go over that a little bit more in a little bit. But I just wanted to point that out. Hobab was one of them that could help them hunt. Yes. No, they could eat beef. Anything with a cloven hoof that chews the cud was fine. All right. They said, "Rise up, Lord, and let thine enemies be scattered, and let them that hate thee flee before thee." Okay? This was his prayer. When the presence of the Lord led them forward, the idea was simple. God, you go before us and take care of our enemies. Okay? It's too dangerous for us to head unless you take care of them. And this is a fitting prayer for every believer to pray as well when we get up. Get up in the morning. Lord, you got to go before me. You got to take care of my enemies because it's too dangerous out there unless you do it. Yeah, nobody knows what could happen. So, Lord, we need you to go before. That faith displayed here kind of gives the sense that Canaan was soon going to be theirs. All right? This is also a fitting prayer to remember the glory and strength of the resurrected Lord as well. When Jesus rose up, all of his enemies were scattered. No one dared oppose him after that. All of our victory is found in his risen glory. Okay? The extent of the victory of Jesus was sin was defeated and scattered at the cross. The hosts of hell were defeated and scattered at the cross. The gods of the heathen were defeated and scattered at the cross. So when Jesus died, he defeated all of those enemies that we have to face. Jesus has already defeated them. And what we have to do is accept that so we can take that into our lives. All right? Then at the end, he said, "Return, O Lord, unto the many thousands of Israel." So this was the prayer of Moses when the cloud of God's presence stopped. So God's leading them, and he says, "Go ahead of us. Lead us, go ahead of us, and you got to go ahead to defeat our enemies." Then when the cloud stops, Moses says, "Come back and be among us." Okay? Stay with us. And the end, Moses prayed, "Here we camp. Lord, stay with us." When God told them to stop at where they were supposed to camp, no matter where it was, remember, even if it was not a good place to camp, it was a rough place. That's where God wanted them to camp. That's where they camped. Right? And even if they were in a good place, a comfortable place, and God said, "You need to go," they went. When that cloud went, they went. Wherever that cloud went, they went. And if that cloud, if it was at night, the pillar of fire, when it went, they went. So God's presence was always with them. Right? Would go ahead of them, leading them. And then when they camped, the cloud stopped, they camped. Moses said, "Come back and be with us." All right? We're camping here, so Lord, stay with us here. All right? That takes us to the end of chapter 10. Now let's get into chapter 11. What do you think happened? What do you think happened to the people after they started God leading them and doing all this stuff? What do you think started to happen then? Anybody got a guess? All right. Started letting their own thoughts. Okay. Well, yeah, kind of like that. Numbers 11, 1-3. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it, and his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. The people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burnt among them. Now, in the first 10 chapters of Numbers, ordered, it was organized, it was cleansed, it was separated, it was blessed. They had been taught how to give. They were reminded of God's deliverance. They were given God's presence. They were given the tools to advance to the promised land. And now they've set out, they're heading towards Canaan. And after just a couple of days, they start complaining. Yeah, imagine that. Okay? Has anybody ever took kids on a long journey, vacation or something like that?
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet? Yeah. You tell your kids, hey, we're going to go to Disneyland or Disney World, whichever one's in Florida. I don't remember which one's in Florida. Disney World. We're going to go to Disney World in Florida. Okay, yeah, well, that's great. Let's go. And then after 2 hours in the car, "Oh, come on, are we there yet? He's touching me. Make him stop it." They start complaining. I'm hungry. I don't want to eat that. I don't want to go there. I need to go to the bathroom. When are we going to stop? Yeah. We got all of that. And it's they're happy to go to Disney. As soon as it gets a little uncomfortable, they start complaining. They and we do that, and the people of Israel did that. Okay? And when they start complaining, God wasn't happy with it. It displeased him. Okay? Complaining hearts displease God. Okay? Especially when they show little gratitude for what he did in the past. Okay? And it's the same way with the kids. They don't see the gratitude. They don't have the gratitude that, hey, we're getting to go to Disney World. All they get is, well, why do we have to drive this far all this time? Because it's not coming to us. We got to go to it. DoorDash and have them deliver Disney World to us.
It takes only a short time.
Yeah. You know, we can't call in the same way with the Amazon and have Amazon deliver this land to them. It wasn't FedEx wouldn't bring it to them. They had to go to where it was. Okay? Huh? Oh, it's going to take a lot longer than what it was if they hadn't have been complaining and doing all that other kind of stuff. Okay? It's going to wind up taking a lot longer. Okay? But they didn't have God had done for them. They've been in the wilderness at the base of Mount Sinai, and God's been taking care of them for a year. For this whole year since they've come out of Egypt, God parted the Red Sea for them. They've set up there. Everything's been going good for a year. Now they're running into a little bit of difficulty, and they start going, oh, okay. The excitement was drained. They didn't have any gratitude for what happened in the past, and they had very little faith for what God could do in the moment. Okay? Now, we aren't told exactly what it was that Israel complained about. It's possible that it simply came from a just generally dissatisfied heart, you know, because traveling's hard nowadays, and we got cars. They didn't have them. They had to carry everything with them, all that they had. So traveling wasn't easy for them, okay? And sometimes we complain not for any one great reason, but because our hearts are dissatisfied. Yeah, have you seen those people that my sister always accused me of saying that I was probably going to turn into one that sits on the front porch? Get off my lawn! Those type of people. She accused me of that not too long ago because my nephew was driving through my lawn with a 4x4 side by side. He was driving through it and he was putting ruts in my yard. And when I saw him, I said, "Stay off my yard." She goes, "Yeah, you're that old man. Get off my lawn." And it's not because, you know, it's sometimes we don't complain because we have any one reason to be complained about. There I did, but sometimes we don't have. Sometimes we're just generally unhappy and we'll just complain about everything just to complain. Okay? Some people just like to complain, right? The more they complain, the worse it gets. There'll be, you know, I'm sure Sister Jen has probably seen in her line of work, and I'm sure Brother Chris has too in his line of work. There'll be people that come into the restaurant or whatever, and no matter what you do, they're not going to be satisfied with it. Okay? The bacon's not crisp enough. Now the bacon's too crisp.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the picture. Okay. Well, if you want me to give you what the picture is, everything is in the picture, that's wax. I'm telling you, plastic and wax. It's not going to look like that. But if you want that, yeah, we'll get it for you. But yeah, people are going to complain. And it's just sometimes people are just going to complain because they just want to complain. They don't have anything else to do, so they. Hmm? Yeah, it just makes them happy to complain. They're not happy unless they're. So, they complain. And this was probably, Israel was probably, things were probably not going bad for them. They were just, now they're having to carry their own stuff. They're having to travel. They're having to set up camp at night and break down camp during the day and walk and travel all this time. And they probably were just, they're getting tired, and pretty soon they're just like, what are we doing? Why can't we just be there? Okay? But Israel had valued the pillar of God's fire that was present with them every night. But here, the fire and the presence of God became something of a two-edged sword for them. Okay? Why is a two-edged sword so dangerous? Yeah. Well, yeah, but a two-edged sword, the reason it's so dangerous is that it cuts both ways. When you go into battle, you can swing it this way and it's going to cut, and you can swing it this way and it's going to cut. So it cuts both ways. So this was kind of a two-edged sword for them. All right? God's fire was preset with Israel to comfort them. But it was also present with them to deal with their sin. So they were there, the fire was there to give them comfort, of course. It was there for them to, hey, we got the pillar of God. But now it's there to deal with their sin. And the outliers, the ones that were unclean, the outliers, those were the ones that started to get consumed by the fire. Okay? Now, ideally, the Israelites should have cried out to God directly. Lord, forgive us for this. We're messing up. I'm sorry. But because they lacked that strong sense of relationship with God himself, they brought their cry to Moses instead of going to God directly. Okay? Which they should have done, they should have taken to the Lord. So what did Moses do? Well, Moses did what he did best. He prayed for the people. Okay? And because Moses prayed for the people, the fire was quenched. Okay? And the place was named Taberah, which means burning. Okay? And it was a reminder of God's judgment on the complaining hearts among Israel. Now, here's some of the stuff that that we're kind of complaining about as well. It said, and the mixed multitude that was among them fell a-lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again and said, who shall give us flesh to eat? Okay. Now, Exodus 12:38 says that a mixed multitude went out of Egypt. And this means that not everybody in that great crowd that came out of Egypt with Moses was ethnically Israelite. There were some other ones in there. Okay? There were many Egyptians in there, and perhaps some other non-Israelites who went with them, and it may be because they were slaves in Egypt as well. Okay? And perhaps because the God of Israel showed himself to be more powerful than the gods of Egypt. Okay? So, remember the plague that killed all the firstborn? Some of the Egyptians might have said, hey, Man, your guy's a lot stronger than ours are. And we got a bunch of them. You got one, and he's stronger than all of ours. We want to go with you. And there probably were some other nationalities that were there that were slaves as well. And they left, and they came. Okay? They let them come with them. Of course, later they had to become Israelites. They had to become Jews. But for the most part, they had to get under the covenant. All right? But there were people that went with them. And there were also a spiritual sense in which Israel was a mixed multitude. That is, not all who were descendants from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had a genuine and a real relationship with God. Now, this is true in the visible church today, which Jesus said would contain good until and I'm sure we can all think of some bad preachers out there. Don't point at me. But there are some bad preachers. There are some bad people out there, especially those enrich themselves. But there are bad people out there. There are, and they're supposed to be Christians. But Jesus said there's going to be good ones and bad ones that are out there until the final harvest. Now, when the final harvest comes, that's when we separate the wheat from the chaff. Okay? That's when we separate all of this. But it says they fell a lusting. Now, that word there for lusting, the Hebrew word, is ta'ava. And that means, and well, it's used in other passages in the Bible as well, like Genesis 3:6 and 1 Samuel 2:16, Job 33:20, Psalms. Eh? They have perhaps, though not always, it is sinful. And these people, the people of Israel, had to yield to this intense craving. Their sinful desire would not be fulfilled, okay, unless they cooperated with that lust, that desire. Okay? James 1:4 says, "But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed." The attraction to sin is present with us, with all of us. The attraction to sin is there. Has been since the fall in the garden. The attraction to sin has always been there. Yet, even though the attraction to sin is there, we have to yield to that sinful desire in choosing sin. Okay? You don't sin because you are tempted. You sin because you give in to temptation. That's where the sin comes in. Just because you get tempted for something doesn't mean that it's a sin. It's when you give in to that temptation, that's when it becomes a sin. Okay? If you're on a diet and you walk by the bakery and you're tempted to get, 3 dozen donuts, that's tempting. All right? I tried that no carb stuff, and they told me, when I went on it, they said, "Oh, in a couple of weeks, you won't even have the cravings. You won't be tempted. You won't have the cravings for them anymore." When you jump out of a car going 30 miles an hour when you see a bakery to get donuts, that's a craving. That's a craving, okay? But just because you do that doesn't mean if you have that craving and temptation, it isn't sin. If you're on a diet and you have a craving for those donuts, that's not going to cause you to gain weight. It's when you buy those donuts and eat them, that's when it's going to cause you to gain weight. Right? When you give in to the temptation, that's become sin. And they said, "Who shall give us flesh to eat?" Now that's a strange question for them to ask. Hey? Meat. Yeah, food. That's what I mean. Okay. They had God in heaven that met their need. Okay? And it seems that some in Israel looked for another provider for them because they weren't satisfied with what they had. Okay? With what came to them from the hand of God. So they were so distraught over this that they wept. All right? And it was tears of repentance or sorrow over sin or experienced as joy in the Lord can be beautiful. However, it's also possible for people, even among God's people, to shed tears over childish disappointments. Okay? Israel could have provided for themselves. They could have. So I said, God had not prohibited them in any way to hunt animals or whatever else they came across in the wilderness. And I'm sure there were various furry critters that were running around. Okay? Probably even a few edible snakes. If you never had rattlesnake, it's actually pretty good. But if it's cooked right. But not only did they have, they could have hunted all of that. That's one of the reasons they wanted Hobab to go with them, is because Hobab knew how to do all this stuff. So God didn't say, you can't go hunting. But instead of doing that, they complained. Right? Well, if they didn't want to go hunting, they had their flocks. They had their sheep, their cattle, all these other ones. And they could have slaughtered those for meat. Yet they did not want to do anything about their desire for meat, except to cry about it. See, they wanted God to provide the meat. They wanted it to be like a restaurant that they could just sit down and the waitress would bring out already cooked food. No. Yeah, lazy. But they had to, God said, you want meat? There's meat. You can go out and get the meat. All right? So they didn't want to do anything but cry about it. And here's what they said. They said, we remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all beside this manna before our eyes. So about a year before this, when they were in Egypt, God responded to Israel's complaint by providing miraculous food. That's when he started giving them the manna, okay, which they called manna. After a year of eating mainly manna, Israel now longed for the foods that they sometimes ate as slaves in Egypt. Now, I can relate that if you eat the same thing over and over and over and over again for a year, that you're probably going to get tired of it. All right? For most people, they will, you know. For me, I'm kind of a creature of habit. I have the same thing for breakfast all the time, because that's just what it is. No, actually, it's not coffee. It's I I go to Brahms, have a big country breakfast with gravy and a large drink. That's what I eat for breakfast every morning. Why? Because it's cheap, for one. Number two, it's just, that's just what that's what I'm used to, and I'm stubborn, I'm old, and I'm set in my ways. All right? And I would probably, if I felt like I would probably make the same thing pretty much over and over and over again, for supper every night. But there are times like if you make spaghetti, now I don't know how to make spaghetti for one person. I make a big pot of it, and I'm eating spaghetti for a while. And after about I am so tired of spaghetti. Time before you eat spaghetti again because you just don't want to eat it over the craving for it. But then after that craving's gone, you don't want it anymore. All right? But now they're remembering a lot of the food that they ate while they were in Egypt. And the first mention of food was the fish they ate in Egypt. Okay? Because they're in the desert. They ain't getting fish. They ain't finding fish. There's no fish in the wilderness. But they also mention cucumbers and melons and leeks and onions and garlic and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. All juicy, crunchy, flavorful foods. Now, I have never once had a craving for cucumbers, but yeah, I'm not a cucumbery person, all right? And I've never had cravings for any of those things, but I like them, you know. I'll eat cucumbers in a salad when I eat a salad, the rare occasion. But they also ate these things in Egypt as well. And the people want what they couldn't get, basically. Okay? And as the people of Israel claimed to remember their supposedly good life in Egypt, here's what the problem was. Now they're thinking, oh, I had a good life. Just think of, we had fish and cucumbers and melons and onions and leeks and all of those other things when we were in Egypt. They sinned with ingratitude, and they had selective memory, and they were twisting the past. It's just like when a woman is born, for a little while she's like, I ain't having another one. But then after a while she's like, oh, I want to have another kid. It's like I forget all the pain and everything from before. All right? But they had selective memory. They weren't remembering the hardship and the slavery and all that other stuff while they were in Egypt. What they were remembering is, hey, we had some pretty good food while we were there. Every once in a while, not always, but every once in a while we did. And they did that. They had that ingratitude. They had that selective memory, and they twisted the past around to justify their current complaints. Okay? There were, no doubt, some good and pleasant times and good and pleasant meals while they were slaves in Egypt. But in general, the Egyptian masters made their lives miserable. Okay? And they just didn't remember it. In one sense, the memory of fish and cucumbers and melons and leeks and onions and garlic was not a lie. They did have those things. There were times that they got to eat such things. Yet, in a greater sense, this was a lie because they only chose to remember one small aspect of their slavery. Okay? While ignoring the much greater bitter part of it and the hard bondage of their slavery. It can be a trap. It really can. To remember only the good. But it can also be a trap to remember only the bad as well. Yeah, we tend to either remember all the good stuff or we tend to remember all the bad stuff. We don't seem to remember both of them. Okay? So we can't always remember all of the good or all of the bad of the past. But now our soul is dried away. It's dried away. A little bit over dramatic, I think. A little bit drama queen there. But from the people who were fed by the manna that came to them every morning, in their complaining, Israel not only romanticized the past, but they exaggerated the problems of the present. Okay? They weren't starving. They weren't about to die. They were getting food. They were getting their man. They were getting what they needed to survive. But they didn't have the other stuff that they thought that they wanted. Okay? You know, every morning my cats think that they're about to die. They're about to starve. I get up, they're waking me up, they're getting me out there, they're meowing, they're jumping all over me, and I'm like, you're not going to die. Look at you, you're not going to die. You can go a month without eating, you're not going to die. Okay? God's not going to allow them to waste away in the wilderness. Okay? In fact, God had provided their every need that they had. But God did not provide their every desire. That's the difference. You see, God's going to provide all of our needs. The Word tells us that. God says, I will provide all your need according to his riches and glory. Doesn't say I'm going to provide all your desires according to his riches and glory. All your needs. My needs are going to be met. Doesn't mean my desires are going to be. Israel focused on what they didn't have while completely forgetting what they did have. Do we do that sometimes? We completely forget what we do have because there's something that we don't have. We'd rather have something else. Yeah. Just because you don't have your desires doesn't mean that you don't have what you need. All right? Okay, we're going to end it right there. Chapter 11. We'll pick up there.
Thank you for joining us today. We pray you were blessed by the broadcast. If you have a prayer request or questions about Solid Rock Tabernacle, please visit our website at www.solidrocktabernacle.org. That's www.solidrocktabernacle.org. On behalf of the pastors and congregation here at Solid Rock Tabernacle,